Right. So let's see. Last time we finished this brand new app, at least the form approach, by being able to fix the problem with the saving procedure. Well, not really a problem, but rather making it better in the right place. And also tested attachments. These attachments are, let me see if I can find them. Not sure if it was here. Nope. That's not the one. Maybe this one. What is this? No, I think this is a correct one. Okay, yeah, there it is, the attachment. Okay, so the limitation of the attachment approach with the form control is that it works for list items, not to send data to a document library, at least not by default. We can make it doing something like that, but it requires a few tricks. So we are still not going to do that today, but it's important to keep in mind what is the objective. So before achieving that, let's learn some basics of Power Automate. Starting with templates, because similar as Power Apps, when you try to create a new Power App, you have some templates here that you can use to learn. You just start with an existing one and analyze what it has inside, the formulas and other stuff. In a similar fashion, you can use the templates of Power Automate to generate something that already exists and understand how that thing works. For example, here is an approval process for a new item in SharePoint. Let's use this one because we have a SharePoint list, the event list, and we can use that to test this. It is going to ask for some connections to be generated. So let's try to fix this. All right, we have the connections set and click continue. Later, we're going to go in more detail about what the connections are, but for now, it's just to get started as fast as possible. And we can achieve that by using templates. There is many templates that can solve common scenarios. Let's say that if you look enough inside the templates, you might be able to survive for many days without even developing a flow from scratch, just starting with something that is already there and modify things here and there. For example, what we can see here is a standard flow body with some steps done in sequence and some branching to go for different directions. That's very interesting information. But let's talk about this action at the top. You can categorize this block only and everything else below in two separate groups. This one here is known as the trigger, and everything below is the actual action steps. The trigger is the most important action in your flow, because based on this is how the flow is going to start. If you don't have a trigger, nothing is going to happen. There are different triggers. There are different categories for the Power Automate flows. We are going to see those in a moment. For now, let's just continue with the one that has been already added here, which is expecting an item to be created in a SharePoint list. Let's see how this is set up. But before doing that, let me see here. Okay, yeah, all is good. Okay. Just wanted to check that there was no error with this. But no, everything is fine. All right, let's see. The first box here is the trigger. These fields here are the trigger parameters. We need to fill the parameters in order to make this trigger work. The first one is the site address. Let's take a look on the ones that are here. We know that the events calendar is inside leadership SharePoint site, and it is already here. So we can simply click on it. If it was not there, you can use another approach. First of all, copy the address of your SharePoint site, just from the HTTPS until the site name, nothing else. And here you select custom value. It's important to select custom value, because if you simply try to write something there, it disappears. Do you see how it goes? It's important to click here in custom value first, and then paste the address. That's not the one. Let's try again. And because I click on custom, now the value remains here. Next thing is to select the list name. The only problem is that this event list is not going to be shown here in the dropdown, because it's a special type of list. And in this case, it's a calendar. And unfortunately, you need to type the name manually. Other type of list will show there in the dropdown, similar as the site suggestions. Okay, let's see what else we need to change. I think there is not much to change, because this flow is already configured. It has some fields already set there. We are going to see how all of this stuff is set eventually, but now we just want to make this work with the minimum effort. And let's try to click save. Here on the top right, it has an error. It says it cannot save unless we complete this action. It says the block start approval require a field or a parameter called assigned to. And there it is. This is the block start approval, and the required field is assigned to. We can notice because it has a red asterisk. So let's assign to a specific person. In this case, admin training account. There it is. You could put a value here based on some calculations or getting the manager or something like that. But in this case, it's going to be a specific person, just to test this as, quickly. So let's say again. And now it's safe. It looks it is complete. Let's click on this blue arrow to go back to the flow panel. It says you live in the space, you will lose changes if you don't save it. We know we have saved this, But sometimes this is a good thing because you forgot if you save it the latest thing uh, and save again. In this case, there was no problem because we already saved the changes. If you have any doubt about that, just click on edit here. This is the flow panel. Just need to click here on edit and confirm that the latest changes are there. If we expand, we can notice it has the values that I set in these two blocks. So I can go back again. Okay, so what is this panel? It contains the main information about the flow, like the name and details, connections that are set, owners, and we are going to review later connections, but now the important section is the run history, this block below. Here we are going to see how many times this flow has been executed and if there was any error during such execution. Okay, another important thing is if you go to my flows, you will see the flow like this. If it is not grayed out, it means it is enabled. We can see the color in the icon in full color and the text in black. It means it's enabled. Another way to know if it is enabled or not, if you click here, it says turn off. It means it is on, it's enabled. Same if you go, no, sorry, go back here to the panel. Actually, you can click on the name and that will take you directly to this panel. Here you can see status says on. Also, we have the button above that says turn off. So that with that information, we know that the flow is ready to wait for changes. Let's do something here in the events list. Let's create a new event. We could do this with Power Apps because we already have this connected, but let's do it directly here just for efficiency in the testing. Okay, the new event has been created. Let's see if we see a new thing here. We have a refresh button here in this corner, which we need to click in order to see the latest execution. Some people refresh the full page, but that's simply too much. It's more efficient to use this button. Another thing that you can use is this page that says all runs. Let's go there. Oh, look at that. It has been executed a few seconds ago, so it's ready. Let's go back. There it is. It says 10 seconds ago. And the status says running, so it has not finished yet. So that means if we click on it, we are going to see where it stopped or where it's waiting. And look at this. It has a check mark here, a green check mark. That means this action has been completed. And so this was the trigger. It recognized an action happening in SharePoint. And it continued to the next action, which is send an approval. But here is yellow. What is going on? It sent this approval, but it is not going to continue unless an approval answer is received. That's because the setup of that specific action. There are some actions that wait for user input, others that don't, and others that behave in a different manner. But for this specific case, it is waiting. Let's see how we can continue this flow by opening the, come on, let's go. Okay, let's open Outlook. We might have an email there about confirming this approval. Okay, don't see the message. I don't see it. junk. Nope. I think it should have sent it here. Okay. It might take a little bit to send this email. It is very normal that this type of flows take more than expected the first time they execute, especially if you have never executed Power Automate again in that environment. I'm not sure why that happens, but I call this the warm-up. And the chances that happen are very high during the very first execution of your flow. But I'm sure that I set here the account that I'm using, so the email should have arrived here. Still, there is another place where we can finish this flow to let it continue, and that should be the action items. Let's see if the action item has been already assigned to this user by clicking on the approvals. Okay, and there is nothing here, which means the approval has not been received at all. Not the email, neither the approval assignation. Don't worry, this is not really a very important thing to fix now, or saying that email about the approval is not an objective that I have in mind, but let's try to give it maybe 1 or 2 minutes. Meanwhile, let's talk about some other stuff of the flow. Let's return here to the run history by going to the all runs page. Let's click here, and here we have the first execution, and this is like a log or a SharePoint list, probably seem very similar in the sense that you can change the view and to display different data. These are like filters. And here we can say, show me only the successful runs, show me only the failed runs, show only the running or pending, there is one, cancel runs, you can cancel flows too. Checks, this is a special type of execution which doesn't really count as an execution. And once we talk about the licensing and the runs that you can use per license, we might talk about this later. Let's see if we have received the email already. Okay, the email is here. It took a lot to be received, but it finally arrived. Before clicking anything on this screen, let me show you the other section here in the action items, approvals. Come on. There it is. And you can see it has also a check mark and an X to approve or reject. Basically, you can do the same thing here as in the email. But for example, all the users with Power Automate enabled can reach this page. That doesn't mean they will be able to modify the flow or see something here. It depends if you share the flow to someone and make it an owner. Only the owners that appear here will be able to see the flow here. So requesting users to confirm approvals from this screen is pretty safe. Nothing to worry about telling to what URL or what page to navigate in order to see the full pending approvals. But most of them will like to do it directly here on the email. one comment here about this approval action. I don't like it because it expires and emails can get lost in the tons of emails people receive or go to the junk folder. So trust in an email answer is not very good. In the still, I use this approach for the beginning to make quick solutions. Just if the customer is requesting an approval process and wants to have it really quickly in short time, so using something like that is good. You achieve the result, is user friendly, and it's perfect. It's perfect for that scenario. It's not going to be very stable in the long term, but as a quick solution is good. The alternative that I do is instead I've developed an interface in Power Apps to process the approvals, and I use the email as a notification. I put a link here that says click here to review the pending approval, and then the link take me to Power Apps, and there you perform your actions and you can be sure that nothing is going to expire or get lost in notifications. I think that's a more stable approach. But still, this one is good, very popular, and you can use it as much as you want for basic scenarios, with the consideration that if that solution needs to move to a more professional stage, then you will basically get rid of this thing. Okay, so let's proceed and click on approve. And it's approved. If I change to another email, I can see that it says the approve, it's already sent. I cannot change my answer. Let's check here. I'm going to refresh. Okay, it's empty and the history should show it, and the outcome says approve. Let's take a look in our flow. Open it here. Look at that. It says the status is succeed. It finished successful. Let's open it. And it finished the approval. Look at the check mark. Also inside the action, we can see some of the properties that were gathered during that process. For example, the response, approve, as well as many other data that could be useful. And because the answer was approved, it actually, because this action executed properly, it goes into this direction. The direction to the right is an error catching path. I will explain that in a moment. So there was no error and it went through this path. Everything good, everything nice. The condition was true because the answer from the approval was to actually approve. So it went to this direction, to the green area, and tried to send an email. And it has a check mark. So, all right. That's a basic flow that we created with a template. Now, let's see other possibilities like forcing an error or some problem here. Let's see how this error catching path is working. One might think that the conditions to split this and say this is an error and this is not an error is set above or here in the line somewhere, but now it is actually set in the first action of that path. For example, the thing that says that this path is for error is the configuration of this orange action. Let me click here in the three dots, and then here it has an option that says configure run after. That's the thing we're looking for. Here you can see the only box that is checked is has failed. It means this action will only run if the previous action has failed. And that's how we got this red arrow. Actually, I can change it to something else, and the red arrow is going to disappear. You see? The error is there again. Okay, I'm not so sure how we can force this to fail. Maybe trying to send to an email that doesn't exist. That could be yeah, maybe with this we can force the error to see how it works. And this path, if we click in run after, we'll see the checkbox. It says is successful. It means only if the previous action is successful, it's going to go in this direction. If the previous action is an error or fails, it's going to go in this direction. And if you were wondering about the question here, it's basically checking what is the response. If the response equals to approve, then goes to the yes answer. Otherwise, it's going to go to the no answer. Okay, so let's test this error and see if we can make it go in this direction. Okay, first of all, we cannot even save it. It says enter a valid email. So that will be a problem because if we enter a valid email, we are not going to see the error. Okay, so it let us save this, but I'm not sure it can catch this problem in the execution, because the email server will try to send something here. At the end of the day, it is a valid email, believe it or not. So not so sure if that will give us the error that I'm expecting, but let's see. By the way, we can, instead of going to SharePoint and create a new event again to trigger the flow, I can repeat a previous execution. For example, here in the button test, and this using data from previous runs. Here I'm going to click on succeed and click test. Excellent. So we were able to catch the problem. Why is green here? You can see it says it ran successfully. We know there was an error. Also, if we go here, we can see it's green, succeeded. But how we managed to return a successful status if there was an error? Well, because we were expecting an error. We anticipated that situation with this error catching path. So let's say the error blah, 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 contained no valid users in the organization. So it was not able to assign the approval to anybody. That's good because we wanted that to happen. And then because this action failed, it went in this direction. Again, it's not about what this action says, is what these actions are expecting. This action in the left was expecting a successful result from the previous action. Therefore, it never executed. This action was expecting an error from the previous action. Therefore, it executed. As you can see, is the one that conditioned the behavior is the action below, not the action above. Okay, so we are now getting a profile from this email, and then sending an email to notify that something failed. Let's see if we could send the email. It seems there is a problem. For some reason, I'm rejecting my own emails. I'm not sure what to do right now to troubleshoot this. There might be a problem with the Exchange. Why is not accepting my own emails? Okay, but the email is there. Okay, so the message is there. Look at this. Start approval action failed. And that's what it says here. Start approval action failed. The next action is terminate. And terminate is sending a succeed status. So this is the reason we are seeing a green result here. Let's take a look at what other values this can have by clicking the edit button to go back to the edit mode. So let's repeat this again one more time, the error situation, the error catching. Here, this block is expecting a successful result from the previous action. And this one is expecting an error from the previous action. Okay, we got the profile from the person that executed the flow. The action says get my profile. It means get the mail from the current user, the one that made this execution. And next we have the action to send an email. Finally, the terminate. And in terminate, we can specify it is succeed, it is cancel, is failed. And why should I terminate if this path is not going to happen anyways? Why should I put this? If that is the end of the road? What else to do? What is the need of putting a succeed here? Well, let me show you. I'm going to take this out by deleting it. Save it. And let's test this again. Using data from previous runs. Test. Okay, now it did the exact same thing. It would go for this path, and this is green, but still I got a red status. If I go back, it says failed. What is the difference? Well, it knows something failed. The flow knows that at some point there was an error, even that you were expecting it and managed to direct the actions to the proper path and continue the process until a successful execution could happen. But just because that single error that happened before, the final status will remain as failed unless you explicitly say to the flow, hey, I was expecting this path. Even if this path happened because of previous error, please send a terminate result of succeed here. We are basically overwriting the status of the flow. This is very handy for those situations where you need to handle or to catch specific errors. Sometimes it's about not being able to send emails. Sometimes could be a wrong calculation or a profile that doesn't exist. Maybe you put your flow to wait some time and then execute after certain days, but after those days, the item that you were processing no longer exists. So all of those errors you need to validate, and it's important to tell the flow that you were expecting, that situation, that you anticipated that situation, and establish some actions to manage that problem. And finally, put the terminate to specify even that the error happened, you want to set that the execution was successful. Why? Simply because we don't want to see a lot of errors in the status here. These are very useful to troubleshoot unexpected errors. So if you see something red here, you go directly and say, okay, what happened? I need to fix my flow. Let's change here and there and other stuff. And you don't want to see this red status when something that you already know that could happen happens. It's just a waste of effort. And that's why we force the output to be successful. Okay, let's go back to the all runs because now we have more data. So let's see what we can see here. This is the view for all the executions, only succeeded executions, failed executions, and let's see the checks. Look at that. We had more checks than the number of executions we have. That's curious. Remember this because it will be important for later. Let's go back to the edition. Okay, all right. There is a lot of things happening here. I know if we have not even explained how to set up this from scratch, it might be confusing. But the idea of this test is to give a quick introduction to flows and catch you with the guard off. So all of this, your brain make the effort to assimilate this, and later when we see step by step, you will do the so it's like that. Oh, so that's the reason. So basically that's the idea. And we are going to do one more template test before starting a flow from scratch. Let's see if we can find something with more branches. Feature it. Okay, this could be. I will go back later here if I don't find anything better. This also, I also like this one. What else? What else? Maybe a different trigger. We can also trigger flows with buttons, so that's good to test. But all of these are very small. Nope, all of them are very, very small. Okay, let's open this one. It recognizes that I also already have some of the connections created with a check mark here, and some of them are not created yet. So let's finish that. ready. And it's asking me to choose a OneDrive folder for this flow. Let's see what we have in OneDrive. Okay, it's empty, but let's create a folder. Okay, that shows. Okay, let's try again. Okay, PA test, PA as Power Automate. So that's my folder. Let's see if this can find it. PA test. Okay, wonderful. Includes folders. No. Approvals assigned to admin. Create. Okay, it didn't take us to the edit screen. It went directly to the panel. So it seems it used that initial wizard to fill the properties. Let's take a look on that. Okay, let's see what happened with the trigger. It's already filled. Good. Then this happens. Okay, another approval. Oh, a loop. This one is going to be interesting. All right, yeah. I think this flow is good because it's doing another thing that we have not seen, and it is also sending data to Teams. Okay. Let's have Teams open in another tab. Okay, it's there. What else we need to keep in mind? Well, let's see what it does. The trigger says it is expecting a file to be created in PA test. So let's do that. Let's create a file inside PA test. New Word document. New doc created. Demo doc. There it is with the name I put. Let's see if we got an execution. It might take a little bit to execute. I'm also going to show you a trick to make this waiting a little less or smaller, less time, sorry. But for now, we need to wait. Okay, while this runs, let's talk about connections. Let's take a look on that. I'm going to click here on Edit. Here it says Embedded Connections in use, and we can see it has a connection for approvals, a connection for Outlook, for Office, OneDrive, and Teams. What are connections? What is the purpose of this? Well, basically, it means is getting data from or sending data to another service or destination, like a data source or cloud service inside Microsoft 365. There could be a service from other providers that are not Microsoft, and they also publish some connectors for that, and you can create custom connectors. But I think is you can achieve most of what you need with existing connectors, and the one that's called HTTP request, because it lets you use API calls to other services. And if it's true that you can create a custom connector for that specific service, if the service already has an API, that's all you need to work. In reality, creating custom connectors is more for other type of users that doesn't understand how to work with APIs, and you want to make their life easier by giving them an easy to set up action or connection. And why it has these connections here? Well, it's all because the actions we set inside the flow. If you say, hey, I need an action to get data from the user profile, then the connection for the user profiles is added. If you say, hey, I need an action to send emails, then the connection to Outlook is added here. Similarly, if you say, hey, I need an action to send data to Microsoft Teams, for the same reason, a connection is added there. That's pretty much the way the connections work. There might be some things that we need to discuss when facing specific challenges, but that's the logic behind the use of the connections. Okay, let's take a look on the execution that we have here. Let's see what it did. It says it's still running, so it must be waiting for the approval. Okay, what it has done so far? First of all, it recognized the creation of a file. Secondly, it created a link to share that file with some people. Then it did this thing to get the profile of the person that executed this, and later it sent an approval request with a link to open the file. Okay, but this is very curious, because this approval is not waiting. This approval is just sending the action, then doing other stuff like sharing the approval notification in Teams, and finally is going to wait for the approval. This action sends an email. This action here posts a message in Teams, and this action puts the full thing to wait. This is another way to create approvals. In the previous occasion, we saw that in a single step, created approval and waited. But there is this other type of approvals, create only and wait after, especially to perform actions in between, like additional notifications to other platforms, because this one only sends notifications to the email. If you want to send notifications to other platforms, you need to split the creation from the waiting. Let's take a look on Teams. So here I have a notification in the chat, and it says I need to approve something. Let's take a look on the email, because it should be the same. Look at that, the approval is there, but this time we're going to answer through Teams, and I want to reject. I don't like this submission yet. Okay, my answer has been sent. And if I open this, and now you can see that it took a few seconds, but it says now that I have already answered this request and I cannot answer anymore. If I go to action items, approvals, and the history, I can see that it is here. It says reject. Let's take a look at the flow. So click on the name, and here it says it has finished. Let's see what it did. Let's open it. Okay, so we know the trigger happened. It created a link, which, by the way, we didn't click. So probably we need to execute this again to test the link. Later, it created approval and sent the approval email. After that, it posted the message to Teams. Then it waited for the approval. I answered it. I said the outcome was reject. And then here is condition. Because I say to reject isn't going to the false path or no path. And here is posting another message in Teams. Let's see. It should have, okay. It is below right there. This is another message. You can notice that because here are the controls of one message. Here are the controls of another message. They are very, very close. So almost it seems that it's the same message, but not. Okay, actually, we can try that link here because the link remains. Let's click on it. No, that's not the link that I was expecting. Maybe it's this one. Yeah, this is the link to the file that was created on the second step of our flow, this action here. All right, well, this one was very nice, but it didn't really do anything important with the applied to each with the loop. So unfortunately, we need to wait into a more meaningful use case for this action to explain it better. I was expecting that it was set up already here to don't have to spend time on that and just explain directly what it does. But it didn't any magic thing, just executed one action inside, so not really a very good loop. Still, that is very frequent. You will notice that in many occasions, you only need to execute one action, but it needs to be inside and applied to each, because the properties that you want to process in your action come from an output that returns multiple items, not just one, and therefore the apply to each is needed. We're going to see that in more detail later, but all you need to know is that the loop exists in Power Automate and it is used even in situations where you don't want it, but still is there. Okay, want to see if that's enough as the basics. I think so. Let's finish today by starting. No, sorry. We need to discuss the triggers. Okay, because we talked about we used the templates to start with some predefined flows and similar type of trigger. One was starting with the creation of an item in SharePoint here at the top, and the other one is starting when a file is added in OneDrive. But there is plenty of options when talking about how to trigger a flow, and they are categorized in the following groups. But I need to draw a line here. I don't remember if I have some tools to draw directly on the screen. Not sure, so I'm going to use my snipping tool. Screen. Can you see my screen again?
Yes, it's well.
Okay, so here is the line. Normal triggers for common flows like the ones we saw today, and here are other special type of automations that are not really that similar to the flows that we see today. Probably some portion of it looks very similar, but they have substantial differences, very important differences that make them to be separated tools. And we can talk about them later, but let's focus on these three for today. We have automated trigger. What that means is going to wait for something to happen somewhere, like the triggers we use today. One of them was expecting an item to be created in SharePoint. The other one was expecting a file to be created in OneDrive. That's the automated flows. They are expecting something to happen somewhere, and they will execute. The user is not aware that they are going to run. The user is just doing a normal action like go to SharePoint and add new data. But in the background, the flow will execute. So that's why they are called automate. They are expecting some user actions and they execute. And the instant flows needs to be manually triggered. The user with the total intention of executing the flow clicks in a button or a link to do so. And finally, we have the scheduled flows, which run depending on a date or a time that you set. You can say, okay, execute this flow every Monday at 9 a.m. or execute this flow every day at nights, or execute this flow once per month. Those are the scheduled flows. The funny thing is that even if you choose one of these, you can change to another if you have not that much progress. So let's for example, start with an automated, and I will change my mind and add an instant. Okay, so for example, here, this is test flow, and here are some suggestions. So when an item is created, click create. And before I start adding actions here, I say, no, this trigger is not the one I want. You don't need to go back. You can delete it from here. And it allows you to search for triggers again. But is going to show you all the triggers, not just the automated triggers. It's going to give you the 3 types of triggers: automated, manual, and schedule. For example, you can see button or schedule. Look at that. So we want to execute this flow every minute. Time zone is important. Starting. Let's put the date. This is ISO format, so year dash month day, then T for time, the hours, starting at 21 minutes 25 0 seconds. And let's send some spam to Teams. A lot of message on Teams. Okay, I want to explain you something. When you add an action, you can filter by a category. So, for example, what I do is first type the name of the category, like Teams, then I select it from here, and then you can see that it has limited only to those actions that are for Teams. And now I can filter again. Post. Lot of message. Post a message. Oops, a lot that has that word. Okay, I will use this one. And want to use the default theme, which is already there. Yeah. And then the channel general. And the message will be a message with the date. This is a message with the following date. And let's use an expression. Expressions are formulas that allow you to calculate things. In this case, I want to get the current time. UTC now is going to give me the universal time, which is fine. But if you are already familiar with formulas, maybe we can do something a little better than that. Actually, let me show you another trick. You don't need formulas for this. Here in the actions, there is a time zone converter. Convert time zone. And in the base time, I'm going to put UTC now. The source is UTC because here literally says UTC. So coordinated universal time, destination time zone. This is my time zone. Format string. Well, I don't care about the format. Let's put the output. Okay, and when I click here, you can see that it's showing me one property that is coming from the previous action. One thing very important, and I will repeat this on other sessions. The most important thing that you need to put attention when selecting properties from this panel is this gray area. Some people that is starting don't read this and just go and click whatever they see there because they believe everything is the same, and that's not true. There might be many actions that do very similar stuff and the output has the same name or very similar names. In this gray row, you can see the name of the action where that thing is coming from. And I'm going to prove that to you by renaming this to something else. So instead of converting time zone, let's say fix time zone to local. Yeah, fixed. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Can you see that? The gray text now says fixed time zone local. So I'm totally sure the property below is coming from this block here. I know the source. Let's use it and add it here. All right, we need to change the starting time because that time has already passed. Let's set this to start at this 30. Okay, maybe every 2 minutes. Okay, it's saved. Let's go back. No run now. Let's wait. Also here, nothing from the flow yet. Okay. The execution. Oh, failed. Interesting. Let's see what happened. Unable to process. Convert expect type no. The forward parameter to be a string. So I thought that was optional. Okay, well, I guess I need to choose something. So let's use this one. Okay, go back. I don't need to do anything because it should run again in 2 minutes. We can force this to execute, but I want you to see the repetitive behavior. Okay, there it is. So it seems it finished correctly now. And the message is here. We can see the time. In 2 minutes is going to do this again. So while that happens, let's summarize what we have seen in this new flow. First of all, the different trigger now is not expecting for change in a specific location. It is going to execute itself when the time when the time happens, the moment is to do the execution. And we need to do time conversion because the formulas don't keep you localized data. You need to convert it. There is also an expression to convert your time zone similar as this action. But what I'm trying to say is that there is no single formula that says local time now. The smallest one is UTC always. And you need to do an additional step to convert. Very important to remember. Could be an action like this or an expression, call it convert from UTC. And inside you put UTC now, comma, and then the format. Now the time zone, the new time zone, for example, if you want to get the time zone, you need to go here to this URL in this hint box, which is very handy. So don't ignore these boxes. Sometimes they give you very good clues. In this case, I need the Central Standard Time Mexico. The column that you need is the one from the middle, not on the right, not on the left. The one on the middle is the one that this parameter uses. I'm not sure if it can work with the IDs, but in all the guides that you will find, it says to use the value in the middle. Okay, and that's it. You can also add a format if you want, like year, month, etc. Blah blah blah. So that's an alternative method using formula, or simply an action like this, and you don't have to know much about programming or having any technical skills background. Let's see. Look at this, it has executed again. So we should have another message there. All right, we have seen that flow being executed already too much. So let's turn it off. Okay, now the flow is off. You can see the status here, it says off, and the button has changed to turn it on. If we go back, look at this. The icon is different and also has this smaller icon on the corner to resemble that is disabled. Okay, very important if you have flows that you are testing, but you are concerned they do actions can be running while you are not monitoring, disable them so you don't have problems. And next time we're going to talk about limits, about licensing and other stuff. The final thing that I want to show you today is the instant cloud and the manual trigger flow. There aren't many because you can basically execute a flow from a button in your mobile device, a button in Power Apps, and other places. But let's see this one that says trigger a flow with a button. And this is going to post a message. Teams. Also, same place. This is a message. Actually, you can receive input when you click the button. I'm going to say, hey, ask for text. Message. And you can see, look at this. This data is coming from the trigger. And I'm going to select message because that's the property that I created. But notice that there are some extra properties. Where are they coming from? Well, if you click that button from your mobile device, you're also going to get extra information, especially if the application has access to the user location. So you will get this thing, latitude, longitude, street, city, and other data. So for this case, I just want the message. Let's save it. Let's click on test. And I will select this one. I will perform the trigger action test. Continue because it's creating the connection. And it is going to allow us to fill the parameter. Let's take a look at that. This now let's send something better. Hello world. Run flow. Done. We go. Here is the message. But let's see how this works on Teams. I want to see if there is another way to show you here. Well, it's the same thing, the same screen. Now, I think we need to look that at the mobile phone. It's just that I don't know if I have the app installed already. I think I don't. Where to install. Okay, it's downloading. But need to connect it. Don't remember the username. Admin. Training sp dot Okay, I'm going to join my phone into the call. 1 second. Okay, you should see my mobile device screen now.
Yes.
And here we have the Power Automate app in my phone. I will click on actually here at the bottom where it says buttons. It's in Spanish, but it's buttons. And that's how it looks. Let's click on it. That's the parameter. So hello, this was sent from my okay, it's sent. And the other nice thing that you can do with these buttons is that you can create shortcuts. You can share the link to this button to other people here. But that's basically it. Let's finish the screen sharing here. Okay, you should see my screen again, but just in case, I'm going to refresh. Okay, my screen should be displaying the browser and then Teams. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so the last message says this message was sent from the mobile phone. Also, we can see the execution here. There it is, status. All right, so I think that's all for today. We covered a lot, and we have not even created our first flow from scratch. The funny part is that we indeed talked about many concepts and did it in a very quick way, thanks to the templates. So don't underestimate the power of these things. They allow you to learn things faster. So when possible, try to test a new template just to see what it does. And well, do you have any comments or questions about these things that we have seen today?
I first of all, I guess it's required a T license, or can we use in lower version?
The audio was cutting, but you asked about the license?
Yep.
Okay, we are going to see the licensing model more in detail next time because there are many things to discuss. But everything we did today is standard, and you can use it with the version that is already included in Office 365. You don't need to purchase anything extra for the stuff we did today. There are other actions that has an additional cost, but nothing from today. And I will point some specific actions that require a premium license next time. Another concept that is important to keep in mind is the limit of executions or run limit, because depending on the license, you have certain runs per month. However, even with the standard version that is included in Office 365, is very unlikely that you will run out of executions, especially if you have more than 5 users, because the runs start to accumulate. So the more users you have, the more runs you have, and all of them go to the same pool. So if for example, one user has 2,000 executions, another user has 2,000 executions, another user has 2,000 executions, then you have 5,000 executions in total. So as you can see, and not all the users will be developing flows. Maybe if you have 10 users, there is only one people developing flows. So it's very, very unlikely that you run out of runs. Still, we are going to see that in the next time, in the next session, to see how many runs are included on each license.
Okay. I have one query.
Is that all?
Earlier we have workload, and it is a new version. So what is the difference between one? Actually, earlier version is free available, and oh, it's some charges for that one. But in that case, we have new features as well. But if we are replacing SPD workflow, then what we need to do that one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but in case you have any specific challenge or situation that you want to ensure what is needed in terms of licensing, please let me know, and we can discuss that in one of these sessions.
No one.
Okay, so that will be it for today. Thank you very much, and let's continue next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.